Hey y'all, it's Bailey with Reclaim Grace. I am extra happy today that you clicked on this video. Today is the 2026 holiday IOD release, and y'all, we are always super excited about this time of year. I'm working on some projects today. They're going to be fall related using these new products. Be sure to let me know which one turns out to be your favorite. And of course, you can find all of the new IOD products over on my website. And I'll be sure to link that information in the description box. Y'all also let me know what your favorite new product is. Next week, we're going to be working on some Christmas projects with these new products. But this week, I was just feeling the fall vibes. Let's go ahead and get started. Hey sweet friends, let's get started with our first makeover. I have this wooden tag I made years and years ago, and we are going to give this thing some love using some of the new IOD products. First, I needed to disassemble. I think back in the day I might have used Gorilla Glue, maybe hot glue on this, and with a chisel and a hammer it came apart fairly easy, but now we need to clean that glue up. I just took one of those chisels and scraped it up and took it over and gave it a really nice sand. And now we can start with the new vision, which is going to be first coming in and giving everything a nice base layer of a white creamy paint. This is Alchemy brand. Before we come in with Roy Cycles decoupage paper. I do not know the name of this paper, but it's from fall, couple years ago maybe. I cut off a piece that would fit one of my tags. I'm misting it with water just to stretch those paper fibers before coming in with some polyacrylic in the matte sheen as my decoupage medium. I like to start with the starter strip and just work my way down. And once it is fully dry, I can then come in with a piece of sandpaper and sand the excess paper off, and that will give us nice clean edges. We are going to be using the new Winter's Calling IOD Holiday Transfer. And I'm going to go with this design right here that says autumn because my projects, I am wanting to do fall related projects this go round. Next week, we might bring in some Christmas. But back to this project, we're just going to cut off that extra little piece that was on this page because I did not want it on the tag. And I'm going to place my transfer towards the bottom half of my tag. I like to rub all over and then start lifting and rubbing at the same time. That helps your transfer release a whole lot faster. And the colors, the moody kind of like muted colors in this transfer are just gorgeous. I'm going to take a piece of sandpaper to get rid of the excess transfers on the side. I didn't want them to be wrapped around. And now we're going to glue our tag back together. I'm going to use some hot glue this time, quite a bit of it, and I'm just going to squeeze them together until that hot glue dries, making sure my holes line up at the top. Next, I'm going to come in and give everything another seal coat of polyacrylic in the matte sheen. Those transfers need to be protected. And then I have this gorgeous gold bronzy velvet ribbon that I'm going to use as my hanging thing, you know. I'm gonna tie a knot. That's what we're gonna use to hang our tag. And then I had this piece of a pretty leaf fall floral pick. This came from Hobby Lobby a couple years ago. I'm gonna add some hot glue and get this stuck down, and then we'll just come in and add a few more details like a jute bow right here and a button to finish it all off. This project was super easy, but man, does it make a difference. I think this is how this tag was meant to be all those years ago. Y'all let me know what y'all think about this project. I'm going to price it for $27. Moving on, we're using one of the new molds. This is Carterberry Lane, and just look at these precious cottage houses. So much detail. I'm going to use my Fabricast resin for these because I want my casting to be nice and sturdy, because we're going to be putting it inside of like a shadow box situation. So I'm going to mix up equal parts A with equal parts B. I'm going to stir for about 10 seconds and then go ahead and pour. This resin sets up in about 2 minutes, becomes unworkable in 2 minutes, and is cured in about 5 to 7 minutes. It will turn white before your eyes. But let's see what we're going to be putting our little design into. I thrifted this clock. The clock doesn't work. We're going to disassemble it just by removing this backer piece and taking out those 4 screws on the corner. I'm going to save the pieces and parts for this because I could use those hands from the clock on another project. But I just love like the frosted glass appearance in the clock. But as you can see, these right here are decasted beautifully. They pop right out so easily. And this one right here is the one I'm going to be using in today's project. So now that you got the vision, let's start painting our little cottage house up. First, I came in with some terracotta color paint. This is by Fusion. I think the name of it is Iron Clay. I wanted to be able to distress the bricks and get this color peeking through. For the roof and all the wood details, I'm going to use some watered down brown paint. And then once that was all dry, I'm going to come in with some white paint. Again, this is that Alchemy line. I believe it's called Alabaster. And we're going to do 1 good coat. Then I wanted to add a little bit of shininess coming through the window. So I just took a little bit of yellow to make it look like a little lights peeking through. And then I'm going to touch up a few little things I may have gotten paint on. But here, our next step is really when things start coming together. Don't worry too much about the making sure it's perfect, because once we come in with the final step on this, it's going to blend everything perfectly. I'm coming in and painting my little leaves from my little rose bush vine, and then I'm going to use a little bit of red paint and touch those roses, very watered down. And this step right here is what makes it, in my opinion, covering the whole thing with Fusion Agent Wax. When I'm buffing that off on the white areas, I'm going to rub a little bit harder to make sure some of that terracotta color is peeking through that white paint. And honestly, I love how this piece painted up. Now let's get the inside of our shadow box all ready to go to be assembled. I'm going to cut some floral foam to size and just use some hot glue to attach it where you can't see it from the front side. We are going to be covering this in some Spanish moss. Made a big mess right there with my hot glue, but don't sweat the little things. Just try again and thank the good Lord you didn't get burned. But yeah, we're just going to add like 3 little pieces here, and then we're going to cover it with some of this Spanish moss. Y'all know this stuff is so messy, so I like to shake out my moss over the trash can before adding it inside of a project like this, so you don't get all those little pieces breaking off inside. Next, I'm taking an itty bitty drill bit and I'm going to drill through the windows of my cottage. Just 1 hole per window will be fine. Try not to make them too uniform, like 1 up top, 1 at the bottom, 1 up top. And that way our lights that we're going to put in this will have a way to shine through. I needed to add a pick to the back of my house just so I can make sure it would not go anywhere inside of my shadow box. So I just cut down a popsicle stick, when use some hot glue, and then press that into the floral foam and just hold it for a few seconds until that glue dries. Now let's add some more character in our shadow box. I have cut some pieces of like a grapevine wreath off, And I have these dried floral pieces that are just so pretty. They just scream fall to me. I'm just going to take little bitty leaves off of these dry floral picks and glue them on my grapevine pick. And I'm going to make little fall trees. Here is the dried floral package I got off of Amazon. It is linked in my Amazon storefront if you're interested. But I went ahead and made several of these, and we're going to go ahead and glue them beside of our house, inside of our shadow box. I also had that other fluffier piece that was straight from the dried floral box. I didn't modify it or anything like that. But yeah, just add a little bit of hot glue and stick it in that floral foam. Now we're going to make a pumpkin. And y'all don't laugh at me. It is literally the only thing I had in my stash. It's an egg, painted orange, add a little stem to it, add a little bit of brown glaze. Nobody's ever going to know it was an egg. It looks like a pumpkin to me. I added it in front of the house, and now I added that last stem in there. Before we come in, our final step, add some fairy lights. If I had to pick, I would probably have gotten a smaller pack of fairy lights, but these were free. Mama gave them to me, so I'm going to make work with what I have. I'm going to hot glue them around the edge, and then I'm going to make sure one of the lights falls near a hole that we made in our little cottage house near the windows. That's it for this project. I love it, love it, love it. You could have even added a Canterbury cottage tag that came in that mold to the front of it. That would have been cute, but I didn't get that idea until I was done with the project. Either way, y'all let me know what you think about this. I'm going to price it for $33, and I cannot wait to see your ideas with this mold. Let's get started on our next project. Here is the Cornutopia's new holiday release mold, and look at all this detail, y'all. This is another one I cannot wait to see what y'all come up with. I am just so ready to start seeing all of y'all's projects using this new release. Either way, we are dusting it well with cornstarch, going to warm up some IOD air dry clay in our hands and start smushing it into that mold, using our thumbs to find that micro rim to get a nice flat back. Then we will just flex it a little bit, flip it over, and the casting will fall right out. I did have a little bit sticking, but it's just because that clay was super fresh. But y'all, look at the little pumpkin and the little piece of corn in there. This painted in lots of color would be so pretty. I cannot wait to play around more with it. But today we're just going to use it pretty simply by adding it to a tray. I picked up this tray from a yard sale, I think for like $1 or $2. And we're going to add some Titebond Quick and Thick to the back of our molds. And we're going to get these glued down. Now, being honest with y'all, I did try this project starting off using resin, and it did not work because I couldn't get my resin flexible enough to make the contour of the tray itself. Even using a heat gun, I even put it in the microwave, it wouldn't work. So I had to pretty much start this project over, but that's fine. I wasn't going to give up on it, but I have some of that new resin on the way, some of the flexible resin that I cannot wait to try out with these kinds of projects. Either way, we're all glued into place now, and you can see those gaps in between the casting and the tray. We need to kind of plug those up with something. I tried my best to not have any gaps, but sometimes you still get them. So I have a little bit of salt wash in this Dixie cup, and I'm going to add about 25% salt wash to 75% paint to get just a little bit of texture that I can shove in between the casting and the tray. And this will give us a more professional, clean outcome versus leaving the gaps. So I'm going to go around all the edges and fill those in first, and then I'm going to go ahead and paint the tray front and back with a couple layers of this alabaster white color. I saved my castings last to paint because I wanted to heavily mist them with water and then come in with the paint mixture. This will really, really thin out that paint to make sure all of those nooks and crannies get painted with just one quick coat. Next, we're going to seal it up with some polyacrylic in the matte sheen, just one quick coat front and back. This is going to give us some nice protection for what we're going to come in to do next. We are going to be using DIY's Pennies from Heaven, this copper patina paint, and we're going to use it as a glaze for this project. So once my top coat is good and dry, I'm going to mist over the project again with my water mister, and then working quickly, I'm going to add a nice thin layer on my whole tray, making sure the Pennies from Heaven gets into all the nooks and crannies of our casting. Then I'm going to come in with a baby wipe immediately and start pulling some of that paint back, really wiping the high points of our casting and just look at the detail it leaves. And this is just honestly the perfect fall combination if you ask me. I'm going to take a paintbrush and just go along the edge of our tray with that Pennies from Heaven. I just thought this was a fun detail. And then we're going to let this dry. Honestly, I thought I was done with this project, but then I got online and I started Googling some quotes, like some thankfulness, gratefulness quotes, and I found this one, and honestly, it's just, I needed to hear it. I need to be reminded of it. I love this quote. So we're going to start stamping this quote out using the apothecary labels. This is an old one, IOD stamp with some black permanent ink. Now, it would have been handy if I would have had one of the new mini thin mounts, but unfortunately, they are on back stock, and I'm not exactly sure when I will have them in, so I'm making work with what I've been using thus far. But here is our quote: gratitude turns what we have into enough. Yeah, gratitude turns what we have into enough. Love that. Love, love, love that. This ink is permanent, so once we get done with that, this project is done. Y'all let me know what y'all think about this project. I plan on pricing it for $23. Let me know what you think about that quote too. That just really touched me. Well, that's all I have for you today, my friends. I hope you enjoyed these projects using the new IOD products. I hope y'all have headed over to the IOD Facebook or YouTube page and seen all these new items. Then come over and shop the website. Thank y'all so much for spending your time with me today. I'll talk to you in the comments. Bye.